Have you fallen into an open manhole recently? Do you find yourself in the company of strangers? Well, then you might very well be in the feature Underground. Until I say otherwise, my name is Hunter Lanier, and I am here yet again in the brand new year with a review of the very appropriate title, Resurrection. This is the third film directed by Bi Gan, who is coming off of a movie that I think is one of the very best movies of the 21st century, A Long Day's Journey into Night. So needless to say, I was very excited for Resurrection. And yes, I did shave my head as I do every New Year's Day to get rid of the old to make room for the new. And of course, we are talking about a movie called Resurrection, so this is a very thematically appropriate New Year's episode. Now, Resurrection is a major departure from Bi Gan's first two movies, Kylie Blues and Long Day's Journey into Night. And yet, it retains many of the trademarks that he has already established in his young career. Now, how can it be both a departure and retain much of what we come to think of as a Bi Gan movie? Well, that is because Resurrection is a lot of movie. As much as I enjoyed it, I think a fair criticism of Resurrection is that it might actually be too much movie. By the time it's over and you're trying to digest this multi-course meal that has just been shoved down your gullet, it's a grueling task to do so. But if you don't mind your movies being on the chewier side as opposed to the liquid diet of, let's say, an Avatar movie, well, then Resurrection just might be one of the best movies you'll see all year, 2025 or 2026. The word ambitious gets thrown around a lot, like the word genius or the word brave. So I realize the word has taken a linguistic beating, and that when I call Resurrection an ambitious movie, it doesn't quite carry the weight that I would like it to. But there's really no other way to describe it. It is what I would call a harmonic anthology film, in that it is a collection of short stories that don't share a common theme, but they work symbiotically to achieve a common purpose. In the same way that a baker and a carpenter and a doctor all work to keep a town going, but by doing totally different tasks. The stories in the film exist within two frameworks. So, first of all, each one is related to one of the senses. So there's smell, sight, taste, etc. And then the stories are sorted chronologically by film styles. So the first one is a silent film, then we move to a noir, and then eventually we end up at a film that is very much like Bi Gan's previous two. It's very much a 21st century feeling movie. As a quick aside, I do think this fascination with long, uninterrupted takes is a little bit shallow. They seem to have a moment, and maybe it's still going on, and I don't know it, but they seem to have a moment where it was the cool thing to do. I remember even on TV, True Detective had one. But I'm tired of them being synonymous with mastery of the craft or something like that. That said, I am willing to give Bi Gan a pass. He has established it as part of his repertoire since 2015. And also he uses it to get a very particular kind of effect rather than falling back on it as the default when you don't know what else to do and you default to whatever is in vogue. Now, earlier on, I described the movie as a harmonic anthology film. So, what is the harmony? What do all of these stories come together to mean? That's what a lot of people will be thinking as they're walking out of the movie theater. I wish I had a better answer for you. I wish I had a better explanation. I have only seen the movie once. I had the opportunity to see it multiple times, but I didn't get around to it. And I will say the movie didn't really start to click with me until about the third story. So around that time, I started to get a better sense of the whole. And so I would like to be able to watch it again now to be able to watch it in full context. And I think that second viewing and third viewing will be much more revealing, as it often is. But I think it is safe to say that Resurrection is a movie about movies, which is, I think, what makes it so ambitious. You can tell it is trying to communicate the vast nature of film as a medium of communication, all within the context of a film, and without doing it in a didactic kind of way, just through storytelling. Admittedly, this is, I would say, a fool's errand, because the best way to communicate the power of film is simply by making a great film. If an alien were to crash land in my backyard tomorrow, and I wanted to try to show it why movies are so important to me, I would show it The Godfather, I would show it I would show it It Happened One Night, I would show it City Lights. I wouldn't show it Resurrection. But one thing that the movie is trying to communicate that those other films don't necessarily on their own is, and where the film gets its title, I think, Resurrection, is that great art endures like nothing else. In fact, it made me think of John Milton, and this is the only movie review channel that is going to read you poetry, by the way. But the movie made me think of a John Milton's epitaph for Shakespeare. And let me just read you the end of the poem. Blah, blah, blah. Thy easy numbers flow, and that each heart hath from the leaves of thy unvalued book those Delphic lines with deep impression took. Then thou, our fancy of itself bereaving, dost make us marble with too much conceiving, and so sepulchred in such pomp dost lie, that kings for such a tomb would wish to die. Now, what he's saying about Shakespeare is that Shakespeare doesn't live forever in his plays. He lives forever in the minds of those who read the plays. The plays are nothing on their own. Someone has to read them. And the people are keeping the plays alive by re-examining them, by reinterpreting them. And this constant motion of meaning keeps the plays from ever dying. And that this is a kind of tomb that even kings are envious of. And I think Bi Gan is trying to say what John Milton was saying about Shakespeare, Bi Gan is trying to say about movies with Resurrection. Now, even though I won't be playing Resurrection at the Alien Film Festival, that isn't to say it's not a great movie. I think it is. Bi Gan continues to be one of the more interesting young filmmakers in the world right now. And I think a large part of that is that he seems to be a uniquely intense curiosity, which I'd go so far as to say is a necessary ingredient for any artist. Certainty is death for art. And Bi Gan's characters are perennial searchers in these mysterious worlds that only reveal themselves to the quietest and most persistent of observers. I may have said this before on the channel, but I think the objective of storytelling, of great storytelling, is not to try to provide the audience answers, because answers will always be unsatisfactory, or they'll be just satisfactory in a temporary kind of way. The goal of great storytelling is to come up with better and better questions. The tree doesn't hand you its wood to make a fire. Water doesn't advertise that drinking from a spring is safer than drinking from a pond. You know, the cows don't go around advertising how nutrient dense their livers are. Our world is reactive to our needs, but we have to meet it halfway with knowledge. And I think this is true not just with physical needs like water and food and fire and warmth, but also metaphysical needs. Resurrection is a movie about movies, but it's also a movie about searching for those metaphysical answers. And in the movie, that search takes us all the way across time. And in this search, film, the medium of film, serves as a kind of flashlight for the searcher. And that's where the movie really resonated with me the most, because it's a case not for the artistic merit of movies, a case which has pretty much, I think, been settled, but rather for the utilitarianism of movies. That movies can be as important in our daily lives as a hammer or a car or indoor plumbing or air conditioning. that movies aren't merely distractions, though we can certainly engage with them on that level, but rather they can actually enrich our lives and help us make sense of our lives, make sense of the world's seemingly endless contradictions. Now, of course, we must recognize that resurrection is preaching to the choir, since anyone who is watching a 3-hour Bi Gan movie probably already views movies in this way. As with any anthology film, some of the stories are stronger than others. I think all of the stories here are pretty strong, with the film noir being the weakest, even though it has a whole Lady from Shanghai mirror sequence, which is hard to go wrong with. My favorite, I think my favorite, the one where the movie started to click with me, is one about a thief who accidentally summons this trickster god who has been hiding in his tooth. Well, those are all my thoughts on Resurrection. Now is the time for you to let me know your thoughts on my thoughts. This is a movie that I'm sure will spur many thoughts of all across the thought spectrum. So leave a comment. Let me know what your interpretation of the movie is, because it could be totally different from mine. The next video on the channel will be my top 10 movies of 2025 list. I did watch Dead Man's Wire. I'm not sure if I'll review that. Maybe, maybe not. Until then, I leave you with the one true fact that will carry you throughout this entire year. The fact that every day underground is a good day.